All right, guys, I'm back. This is Let's Make Cake. I'm your host, Michelle Pyle. It is Saturday here, and so happy Saturday. Saturdays actually many times used to be one of the hardest days of the week for me, which is kind of weird because people usually love their weekends. But if you are struggling with depression, as I was in many different periods of my life, Saturdays were the worst because Monday through Friday I was working, and so I had, reasons to get up and things to do, and then Saturday would roll around and I was just sort of faced with the reality um, of my life, which was not what I wanted. So yeah, Saturdays weren't great. Now they're way better. But if your Saturday is, I don't know where you're at in all of this, but if you are waking up on Saturday and having those similar feelings that I used to have, I would encourage you actually to watch yesterday's video, which is about finding groups to join. That's something, if I could go back and tell myself to do, that would be the number one thing. Yeah, it's great you have work. You have friends, they're not always available. Or sometimes you just can't, you're not able to participate on that level that friendship, requires sometimes, especially if you're going through depression. So finding a group to join where you just have, every Saturday at this time, we get together, this organized group that I can just become a part of and do X. So at least you have some sort of anchor to your weekend. I would really encourage you to do that. So yeah, check out yesterday's video. Um, it's important to find groups to get you through, and then also just in life to have groups to be a part of is super awesome. But today, since it is Saturday and it's the weekends, I want to try to make this a little more lighthearted of a video and probably shorter. So today I want to talk about be an astronaut. And this is something that came to me, I don't know how many months ago. So I'm living in Italy, and so I have to learn another language. And I was talking to, I don't know who is it, my husband's cousins probably. And it just popped into my head. I was like, yeah, when people say like, oh yeah, just go learn another language, right? It's no big deal. In my mind, I'm hearing, yeah, just go be an astronaut. It's super easy. And so I kind of like latched onto that just like as a visual and then a joke for sort of me to just laugh about how hard it is, in my opinion, to learn another language. But it was a great visual, like be an astronaut. To use my imagination and humor to kind of get through what I don't really want to do because I think it's really hard learning another language. But what I want to talk about in Be an Astronaut for you is really igniting your imagination. This is going to be huge, like in order to get better and to make a life you want. We already use our imaginations, especially if you're dealing with depression and anxiety, just in like super negative ways, right? So we're always creating doomsday scenarios or rabbit holes that we spiral down, right? So we know how to use our imaginations. We just want to flip it from that kind of negative pattern into something more positive. So today I'm going to talk about being an astronaut as a way to do that. And so the idea is just come up with anything. You just want to start allowing a little more play into your life, right? Depression is heavy, anxiety is heavy, and it weighs you down, and just allowing yourself to use your imagination and be a little bit more playful is kind of a safe way to like start to experiment with thinking about life differently. So be an astronaut. I know you're probably like, this is crazy. Maybe. But it's also, I don't know, I think it could be super helpful. So the idea initially came to me when I was thinking about learning another language. But I also am just fascinated by space and astronauts. And they're in the news all the time, and there's lots of movies and books. So I'll just talk about a few just because I think it's like super interesting. So I was, of course, on the internet, which I am all the time, reading various articles. And this one popped up, and let me get to the top here. So this was on CNN.com, and I'll put a link. But the headline read, NASA astronauts on readjusting to life on Earth. And then there's a quote, "It's hard to sit." I was like, oh, I got to read this article, right? What are they talking about? There were these astronauts who spent 230 days in space, which is a super long time. And they talk about their experience when they came back and readjusting to life under the effects of gravity, which is just something I never thought about when I thought about astronauts coming back. So I thought that was really interesting. So this one guy, Dominic, one of the astronauts, said he was recently sitting outside with his family eating dinner, and he was forced to lie down on a towel in the yard because his seat was too uncomfortable. Because my backside had not really set in a hard thing for 235 days. I mean, that's crazy, right? And he jokes, that wasn't in a book I read. Hey, you're going to space, and when you come back, it's going to be hard to sit in a chair. So I thought this was hilarious. And then there's like a more where I kind of connected this to depression and anxiety. So you don't think I'm like just completely out there with this article. And what does this have to do with depression and anxiety and making a cake or making a life? So there's a quote by one of the other astronauts. "The weight and the heaviness of things is just surprising." And I was like, oh, I love that. Because that is like depression and anxiety, like when they sneak up on you and like suddenly life just becomes heavy and you're totally caught off guard and you're just like, what is happening? And like, why is everything so hard? And I know this is completely different. We're talking about astronauts coming back from space and them struggling with literal weight of things. But again, in using our imaginations, and I know this is crazy, probably, but if there's a way to think of yourself as an astronaut who has returned from space to Earth and things are really hard, right? And these people are struggling to sit down through a dinner in a chair, and just kind of using this story as like a way to look at what you're going through and how it is hard. And there's another quote here. Uh, oh, sorry. Let's see. Oops, did I miss it? But where they say, it's hard, but I have to do it, like, even though, like, because that's the only way I'm going to get through it. Oh, here it is. Sorry. It was right in the same quote. I've been laying any chance I got. Right. Sounds familiar. If you've had depression, right? I would spend the weekends in bed sometimes. But you have to move and you have to exercise every day. Otherwise, you won't get those gains. You have to move regardless of how exhausted you feel. This was the connection I wanted to make to depression and anxiety. So like, be an astronaut, right? You just came back to Earth. Everything is hard, but like, you have to do it. That's the only way to readjust to gravity. That's the only way to get past your depression and anxiety. Is you have to move every day. You have to exercise every day. You have to move regardless of how exhausted you feel. So I thought that was really interesting because I always make these crazy connections to mental health because like when you've lived with it for so long, you just see it everywhere. But yeah, be like these astronauts and be like, okay, I can do this, I also really love, there's a movie called The Martian. Who's the actor? Oh, he's super famous. Oh, I can't remember his name. Anyway, at the end, so the whole movie is awesome and you should definitely watch it. And it's fitting with this space theme that I have going for us today. But at the end, he talks about, so he gets stranded on Mars, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, Mars. And, the whole movie is just him basically saving himself after being stranded. And at the end, he's now a lecturer to, I'm guessing, future astronauts. And he talks about how the three things that helped him get through this were knowledge, determination, and help. And I really like that because it's not just doing it on your own, right? He had to use his knowledge, but he had to also use other people's knowledge and their assistance in order to, get back to planet Earth. But I think it's great. Like, you can't do this alone. And that's one reason I'm doing these videos, is to be like, yeah, check in here, if I'm doing them every day, um, to get like that motivation that like you can do this, you absolutely can do this, and you don't have to do it alone. Like, you're not alone. There's so many of us out there who have done it. And yeah, be this astronaut in this movie, The Martian. Same principles apply to getting better. I know it's crazy because this movie is about getting back to Earth, but it's the same. You need to do the same things, just like these astronauts readjusting to gravity. Like, you have to do the same things to get over depression and anxiety. And I really like using my imagination and connecting to things outside of the mental health, world, because the language can be super heavy. It's not always fun to think about or talk about. So, like, this is a way to kind of be just a little more playful with it. Yes, it's serious. Yes, it's scary. I'm not trying to downplay that. But, like, we do still have our imagination, like, and we need to, like, spark it and, like, get excited and be like, I can do this. Another, like, space themed, and I actually think this might be, is a book I read. And I think the author wrote The Martian, and then The Martian became a movie. But the author is Andy Weir. I'm not totally sure how to say his name, but it's called Project Hail Mary. If you're into reading, this book is so, 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 so good. I read it once and then I read it through immediately a second time. Like, that's how good it is. And it also will spark your imagination, right? So this guy, again, he's stranded. Common themes here of being stranded and isolated, which I relate to so much with depression and anxiety. You feel isolated, you feel stranded. So I really like that connection with astronauts in space. But so the book, excuse me, I hope they make a movie. They haven't yet, but he says, he's not like technically an astronaut, but the guy who ends up in space, so to speak, his name is Ryland. Ryland's joy of discovery is contagious. And it really is. This book is so good because it shows you how even in this like horrible extreme situations, if you can keep your imagination active and be looking for things, right, you can have this adventure, even though you're in this possibly terrible place, right? Depression and anxiety is not a great place to be. We're not completely blocked off from discovering new things. And so sometimes, if you were like me, you're reading all the things with self-help and all that, which you have to do and you got to do therapy and all that, but also get excited about life. And, I was reading space books and watching space movies as a way to do that. But you want to start to spark that sense of discovery. I mean, I'm not going to be an astronaut, obviously, but it's fun to read about and watch movies and just get your mind, like, you want to just spark something here beyond the depression and the anxiety. Not everybody, like, reading can be hard when you're super in, if you're in like the pit of depression, as I call it. I'm able to read a ton now, but when I was really bad, the thought of like reading a book was like impossible. I would encourage you, and I wish I had done this, to start with children's books. And I read kids' books today. You don't have to read like novels for it to count as reading. Like, just read anything, right? You want to start to just get your mind not to do with self-help, right? This is the opposite of that. This is using life and living stories and experiences to get your imagination sparked and activated. So here's a really good children's book that I'll recommend. It's called Why Not? It's by Kobe Yamada. And it says on the back cover, what if life is even more miraculous than you've imagined? I just love that, right? um, why not find out for yourself? And it's encouraging to read these stories of like adventure and, go have experiences. And, here's another line from this kid's book. Why not find out how remarkable your life can be? And it's hard to like go there when you're depressed, I know, but like because it's a children's book, it's not saying like, and now do these 10 things and fix these 8 things and right. This is just about expanding your mind, right? Depression and anxiety are like prisons. They're prisons, they're mental prisons. And so you have to like start to break out of that. Books, movies, all of that, the right ones, can really help. And then I also really like this book series. And this is, again, I think these books are for maybe middle schoolers, but I don't care. I read them when I was, like 4 years ago. Um, I love it. It's a trio. It's called Masterminds, and it's by Gordon Corman. I think they maybe are written for boys. And if there are guys watching this show, that would be awesome because we need you. We need you in our lives. So please come along on this journey of getting better. Right. But these books are so good because they're all about adventure. I love this. And so this is just from the book summary. Eli has never left Serenity, New Mexico. Why would he ever want to? Then one day he bikes to the edge of the city limits and something so crazy and unexpected happens, it changes everything. I just love that. Right? So we want to start thinking about like life can change, right? We can have new experiences and we're not going to be stuck here forever. So yeah, I think reading is super important and movies and just activating our imagination and using whatever is around us to do that. It's really easy to watch like depressing television, right? Like crime dramas, to read negative news, to log on to social media and compare ourselves to, other girls, if you're a female or other guys. I don't know if guys do that, but um, that same system of movies and books and all of that has this other side of really inspiring things in like space, right? Even though I'm never going to space, there is some connection I feel with these astronauts who came back and had to readjust to life on Earth. And it was hard. Like, I love that because it's like I had depression, I had really bad anxiety, I had to get better. And that was a really hard process. You want to wake up tomorrow and you're just better, right? I'm sure these astronauts thought, come back to Earth and everything's fine. Gravity's back, let's go. Um, but if that's not happening, okay, it's okay. Like, still, like, let's fight to get better. And use your imagination, right? Be an astronaut. I'm fighting to learn another language. It's hard. It's so hard. And whenever I start to think that, I'm like, okay, just be an astronaut, Michelle. It's okay. Like, you can do this. Like, go to space, go to this crazy foreign language class where you feel like a fish out of water. So yeah, so this is kind of a silly video for today, but I want to keep Saturdays not so heavy. Actually, all of this not so heavy. I mean, we will have heavier days where we dive in to more stuff, but yeah, like use your imagination. Let other people, other artists, storytellers, or just people in their own lived experiences, like get your imagination sparked and excited. You're already using your imagine, like depression and anxiety are, it's a lot is just in here, right? So you're already using your imagination, and but you're just imagining really horrible things. Or at least I was. I'm assuming I'm not the only one out there. Just start using that same ability you have to imagine things for more um, positive visuals. Yeah. So that's today's show, Be an Astronaut. I hope you had enjoyed it. I really love reading about adventures, right? So this was space. I'll also talk about, ocean explorers because I find that super fascinating too. I just think there is something appealing when you've gone through like depression and anxiety, this really horrible experience, and you come out the other side. It's not unlike having these, I mean, it's completely different, right? Because but having these adventures and experiences where things are really hard, but then you get through it, you get to the other side, and you're like, oh, I'm like this great person and life is awesome. And so that's what's going to happen for you. That's the whole concept of let's make cake, is like you're going to make something. And when you do that and you get there, you're going to be like, even though that was hard, wow, this is great. So yeah, that is today's show. Be an astronaut. I'll put links in. I think that CNN article is just, I love it so much about the astronauts who came back from space after 230 days. The Martian, the movie. I think probably like the whole movie is like a little stressful, but the very end is super inspiring. Like if you just need like a motivational speech that like you can do this, Matt Damon. That's who the actor is, Matt Damon. It's great. That book, Project Hail Mary, is so good. The book Masterminds. So I'll put links to that stuff, or the titles and authors, so you can find it. But yeah, I hope you, whatever your Saturday looks like, doesn't look good. I've been there. It won't be like this forever. We can get better, and you can have wonderful Saturdays ahead of you. So yeah, and I will probably be here tomorrow again. I want to try to do this every day, just to create that space where we can meet and talk. And well, right now it's a little bit one way, but working on getting that more two way. Yeah, because I want to help you get better. Because that's, you know, kind of my mission, I think, right now, is to help others. So anyway, okay, I could just go on and on. Apparently, I'm doing these live because if I had to do like record, which I started doing like recorded video, I'm such a perfectionist that it would never happen. So now I'm winging it, and you're getting to just kind of see me unedited. Wrapping up now. Okay, see you guys tomorrow.